Up for review today, reason 749,823, The Hate Clowns. Hello and welcome to RotD Review of the Day, and things are going to be happening just a little bit out of order. See, typically when I make a review, what I'll do is I'll watch the movie, and then I'll take 1 or 2 days to gather notes together, to come up with a score, to gather artwork together, and generally prepare for the review video. And while I'm preparing, I'm also watching the next movie, and then, when I record the video, I'll be watching a movie that I'm going to wind up reviewing 2 days from now. And this was supposed to be a review for Tales of Halloween, and it will be eventually, probably tomorrow. But last night, I watched this movie, Hell House LLC, and it blew me totally away, and I had to just kind of bump it to the front of the line. I had to talk about this one. So, review of the day, Hell House LLC, made in 2015. Really, really surprised standout. And I think one of the things that I really liked about it was the fact that I wasn't really expecting a whole lot out of it. It was a random pick. I believe the sequel just came out not too awful long ago. And I saw that and backtracked and was like, okay, I'll watch the first one first. And it was it started out as a bit of a mockumentary in the same line of the Poughkeepsie tapes, and it had that pacing of the Poughkeepsie tapes, which I really loved. But Poughkeepsie tapes had some really serious horrific elements to it, and it was absolutely a horror movie. But it was mostly a well-paced false documentary, and this looked like it was going to follow along those lines, but then they started to get into some found footage elements of this, and that is what ultimately drove 75-85% of the movie. And then they actually went full circle and incorporated some elements back into the documentary aspect of things. And I don't want to give spoilers, certainly not for this movie, because it really is worth watching, and worth watching with fresh eyes. So let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot of this one is a group of 30-somethings or late 20-somethings, young entrepreneurs, take their haunted house theatrical nature. They have this company, Hell House, where they will go on the road, and every year around Halloween time, they will go to a location and set it up as a haunted house for the local people that they can go into. And I mean, not a true haunted house, but some, the haunted house that may be in your small town, where you can go through and get scared by actors dressed up in costumes and, pay $16 to have a bit of a fright for a little while, which I love. We have one here in my neck of the woods that is really fantastic. Shout out to the Andover Haunted House in Western New York. But the elements of this one is it was taking place this time in a hotel, an abandoned hotel. And the movie starts out talking about the tragedy of this event. And it's really ambiguous as to what actually happened. Even in terms of the broad strokes, the victims, how many there were, or what happened in terms of coroner's reports, anything like that. And it alludes to a grander scale cover-up of those events. And then as the documentary team dug in further and really, uncovered more footage, it revealed the events prior to the fateful night of incident, which documented them being on the road and actually approaching the hotel, and the weeks prior, and setting things up, and what had happened to them in that time, and then certainly what had happened the night of the incident. And this was really well fleshed out. I really had to love what they accomplished with this, and they had some really good elements. First of all, there were elements of the hotel that were scary, even to the characters. And that was an interesting point that they put on it, is you're going into a place, you go down into the basement, there's weird symbols and so forth on the wall, you're sufficiently creeped out. Why would you hang around that place? Well, now we have an instance where one character is talking to another. It's like, well, a lot of the work's done for us. We're here to set up a haunted house. We're going to complain about the house being scary? That's exactly what we want. So it had that element of, well, this is not just a reason for us to not be here. This is a reason for us specifically to stick around. If I was going to come up with any kind of complaints about the plot, it would be that there was an element of this where things were starting to get very real and starting to happen on screen in a way that was provable, as in something would happen to a character that happened to be filming and he would show it to the other people. And there was a level of disconnect, disbelief, like where it was clearly impossible without some pretty major special effects budgets for this person to be faking it. Oh, you're just messing with us. So there was a level of disbelief there that was a little tough to buy, but at the same time, it could also be argued that the house was influencing everybody involved, including the people that really wanted to go on with the show and is not going to let anything stop them, including some incriminating footage. So a little bit of suffering there, but we had a possible explanation. I gave the plot a 20 out of 25 points. For a simple concept and a found footage movie, it pulled off a good storyline and a great movie altogether. The intent, this was intending to be a half mockumentary, a half found footage, ultimately good jump scare and tension building scary movie, and it went above and beyond. It had some great scares. It had some great tension. It had some wonderful dread to it. And everything about it was just, it sold it. I'm going to get into that with the acting and the technical, and I already covered the plot, but everything about this came together in such a cohesive package that it sold it, and it was just great. It was genuinely, startlingly scary, but also, beyond scary, it was compelling. You wanted to see what these characters were going to go through. You wanted to see, as one person started going down the rabbit hole a little bit more than the others, you wanted the others to kind of believe him, and you became engaged and engrossed in the characters' interactions with one another. This was just a great movie overall. So the intent, I gave a 20 out of 25, or 22 out of 25. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. And the thing is, this was not a big budget picture. They did a lot with a little. They're setting up a small town haunted house through a traveling roadshow kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to have some cheesy elements to it, some prop figures, but they made genuinely good scares on screen with what they had. And I have seen movies that had 100 times the budget of this one do far, far worse in terms of attempted scares. So just really great on the intention on this. The acting, I gave a 19 out of 25. Some really superb performances here. They sold the movie, and insofar as, they didn't make the movie entirely in and of itself, but if the acting had been bad, then everything else would have fallen apart about this. It really hinged on needing good performances, needing solid, genuine reactions from the actors and delivering their characters. And they really did that. Just great all around. Every single one of the principal actors of this Hell House LLC roadshow kind of thing did a phenomenal job with what their characters were supposed to do, and in terms of the situation and the job at hand, and looking forward to the opening night of this haunted house, as well as the other characters that they were interacting with. Just beautiful. And the technical, I gave a 23 out of 25. They didn't just have found footage. They made the found footage work for the movie. It was a very efficient use of the camera style. It wasn't a gimmick. It was an element. It was a crucial, critical element. There were scares in this that would not have worked if it hadn't been for how they manipulated the found footage. There's one scene that had to do with the strobe light that worked just really well, and it never could have pulled off if it hadn't been for the found footage style and the technical elements that they put in for that. So, again, this is just coming from a place of they did a whole lot with very little, and I can't think of higher praise to give. In all honesty, every single one of the effects, maybe it was cheesy, maybe it was low budget, but when you put them on the screen, they made every single one of them work. So I gave the technical a 23 out of 25. This was a standout hit for me, and I really can't wait to watch the sequel. I am going to not do a deep dive of this one. What I'm going to do is in the next few days, and I'm not exactly sure when, I would say less than a week from now, I am going to watch and review Hell House LLC 2, and then what I'll do is I'll have a deep dive, spoiler-filled discussion on both movies at once. So look for that. And I really appreciate you joining me for this. And next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted. And make sure that it's Hell House LLC.